Hello and welcome to Newscentre. I'm Parikshit Luthra. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on the final leg of his three-nation visit. He is in Oman to sign a free trade agreement, which is a part of a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, a broader pact covering the entire gamut of business relations, including tariffs on goods, services, regulatory changes, standards, intellectual property, and investment. The deal is expected to boost bilateral trade, create jobs, and deepen the India-Oman strategic partnership across sectors, including trade, investment, energy, defense, technology, and people-to-people ties. Bilateral trade between the two countries stands at around $9 billion, with strong two-way investment flows. There are over 6,000 India-Oman joint ventures in Oman, with investments exceeding $7.5 billion. FDI inflows from Oman to India between April to June 2024, that is in the last 24 years, stand at nearly $600 million. This will be Oman's second FTA within individual country and its first in over 2 decades. For India, it will be the second trade agreement signed this year. Prime Minister Modi called this trade deal historic. He added, this will boost trade and give a new confidence to investments and open new doors to opportunities in every sector.
आज हम एक ऐसा ऐतिहासिक निर्णय ले रहे हैं जिसकी गूंज आने वाले कई दशकों तक सुनाई देगी। कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव इकोनॉमिक पार्टनरशिप एग्रीमेंट यानी सीपा हमारी पार्टनरशिप को 21st सेंचुरी में नया विश्वास, नई ऊर्जा से भर देगा। ये हमारे साझा भविष्य का ब्लूप्रिंट है।
All right, joining us right now is Abhimanyu Sharma, who has been tracking this FTA, speaking to officials on why this is important. Abhimanyu, tell us which export sectors get the benefit of this deal, and what about services?
India is looking to implement the trade pact with Oman by the first quarter of the next fiscal and is aiming for a 50% export rise in merchandise in the next 3 years. Government sources indicated that the CEPA will act as a template for FTA negotiations with the Gulf Cooperation Council. This is India's second FTA with a GCC member after the UAE, courtesy which downstream petrochemicals, dates and decorative marble would get cheaper in the Indian market, as more access would be given to Oman's exporters into the Indian market. Even as India is aiming to increase its exports of not just goods but even services into Oman's market, government sources also said that India had held on to its stand to exclude gold and silver bullion, petroleum products and non-ferrous metals out of the FTA to protect several local sensitivities, and India has placed 2,789 tariff lines in the exclusion list to protect interests of farmers, manufacturing competitiveness, and excluded goods like alcohol, tobacco, plantains and pork in view of social sensitivities on the other side. Also, Oman's Omanization policy to provide employment to local workers will not be changed to the detriment of Indian workers. That is what government sources indicated, that the FTA will mandate equal opportunities for workers from all SAARC countries, and regulatory fast-tracking for pharma exports will also provide an opportunity for growth in pharma exports as well as agri products as well as textiles. Oman's proximity to India has also been cited by government sources as one of the opportunity for co-location of industries and workers into several parts of Oman due to availability of land, which will allow for more industrialization and better ties between both the countries.
All right, to understand the significance of this deal and India's diversification strategy, we're joined by Jayant Dasgupta, former Indian ambassador to the WTO, and international trade expert Abhijit Das. He's also the former head of Center for WTO Studies. Thank you very much for being with us on the show today. Jayant Dasgupta, if I were to ask you, 99% of India's exports to enter Oman duty-free. Currently, the overall trade between the two countries is $10 billion US. It's in favor of Oman. How do you think India stands to benefit? This FTA will be operationalized fairly soon.
The goods trade, of course, is not very high. I think, as you showed in your figures, it is just around $10 billion or so. Oman exported about $6 billion, of which the three main products were petroleum and gas and fertilizers. And as far as India is concerned, it was basically naphtha, petroleum, refined petroleum, that is, and machinery items, iron and steel, etc. So I think for the labor-intensive sector like textiles and clothing, like leather footwear and leather garments and other leather products, I think there is going to be a very good scope for increasing our exports to Oman. And more importantly, the flow of FDI has been rather limited, just around 600 million, over $600 million from India to Oman, and a similar figure for Oman to India in 24 years. So, with the signing of the comprehensive agreement, hopefully, India will see a lot more of Omani's investments in India. Already, there are about
Right.
6,000 joint ventures which are working India-Oman joint ventures. But I think there would be a lot of capital infusion which is expected because of the SEPA.
All right. I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Dasgupta. Let me get in Abhijit Das as well. Abhijit Das, on the services commitments front, this is the first of its kind in any agreement with Oman. 127 subsectors will stand to benefit. Enhanced mobility for high-quality temporary workers. Stay commitments for intra-corporate transferees have been increased. Contractual service suppliers, even for them, the opportunities are going to increase under the new SEPA as well. How do you think this helps our services exports to Oman?
First and foremost, we need to realize that Indian service providers have already been fairly active in Oman. So to that extent, the incremental benefit will not be very significant. But having said that, with the Omanese economy set to expand quite significantly in the coming few years, India would become well positioned to meet the demand for services as and when the Omanese economy starts to grow. So that is what will really provide the opportunity. To cut a long story short, our services export growth will really be determined by the rate at which the Oman economy expands.
Right. The SEPA also opens up opportunities for 100% FDI investments in Oman by Indian companies. Mr. Dasgupta, how do you think this will help the Indian businesses looking to diversify, enter the Omani market, and why is this important?
There are several factors, I think, which would enable Indian investors to, reap the benefits of this SEPA. One of them is that Oman is a place where there is plentiful sunshine. So I think there are already companies which are into green hydrogen, which are exploring the possibility of joint ventures in Oman. And there are, I think, a few already which have been signed. So that is one aspect. The second thing is that Oman can be, because land is plentifully available, and Oman is looking for industrial production on a larger scale. So I think it could act as a springboard for accessing other countries in the GCC, the other 5 countries. Of course, India has already signed an FTA with the UAE. So Saudi Arabia and the other 3 countries, it could act as a springboard and benefit Indian investors in Oman.
All right. Now, in terms of setting the ground for FTAs with other GCC countries and a larger GCC agreement as well, how does this trade agreement really help us, Abhijit Das?
In 2 contrasting ways, in 2 opposing directions. One, of course, is on the positive side, our aspiration that with Oman already having given us FTA concessions, Oman will find it less difficult to give similar concessions in the FTA negotiations with GCC. So that is one aspect. But the second aspect is a much more practical dimension, and this is a problem which India encountered in the FTA negotiations with ASEAN. Just to recall, in ASEAN, we already had a free trade agreement, SICA, with Singapore. Our expectation was that Singapore would support us in the FTA negotiations with ASEAN. That didn't happen for the very simple reason that Singapore would have partly lost the Indian market if the FTA with ASEAN were to be implemented. So I do apprehend something similar with Oman as well. Once the FTA with the GCC starts getting concluded, there could be an apprehension in Oman that the edge that Oman products enjoy in the Indian market because of the FTA with Oman, that edge could get a bit curtailed because of the FTA with GCC. And let's also remember that the production patterns in Oman and some of the other GCC countries might be very similar. So the adverse impact on Oman of the larger FTA with India under GCC umbrella could cause some apprehensions in Oman. So that's
all
my
right,
take on
Mr.
this aspect.
Okay, Mr. Dasgupta, now in the last few years, we've seen India signing an FTA with United Kingdom, which is yet to come into effect. You've got the EFTA, which has come into effect this year. The Australia trade agreement is already in place, and we're now looking to make it a bigger agreement. You've got a CEPA with UAE. You've got a trade agreement with Mauritius. We're now restarting talks with Canada. Israel, talks with the US, talks with the European Union are on as well. How does Oman help us in increasing overall exports? If it's $10 billion currently, with this trade agreement in place, how do you expect rationally, practically, trade to increase on a year-to-year basis with Oman?
Well, Oman, the population is only about 50 lakhs. And the GDP is about $118 billion. So we can't expect, a very high growth rate from the $10 billion that we are already having by way of international trade, but two-way trade. So one of the major things about this CEPA is to have, stronger relationship, stronger bonds with Oman, and also have use it as a stepping stone to the GCC, which is a much larger market, because Oman is, I think, one of the smaller markets of the, or if not the smallest of the GCC. So that is the main thing. And, there are many benefits of co-production. If we are strategically, we make a choice of setting up certain industries for which we have the technology, we could have the labor, and the services agreement could also include, of course, skilled professionals would have much better access, but even for semi-skilled professionals, if that could take place, then it could act as an offshore destination for our exporters to co-produce and export from there. So that is a possibility which needs to be explored fully, because the contours of what will happen with the India-EU FTA and the India-US FTA, those things are not really known yet. So once those things fall into place, we can reap the benefits.
All right, I'll put my final question to Mr. Abhijit Das. Abhijit Das, do you believe this will allow for greater FDI into India as well? We've seen about $600 million flow in the last 25 years.
Honestly, I do not envisage any significant surge of FDI from Oman. Overall, my take on the agreement is that it might give some boost to our exports and investment, but not very significant. But the larger story is on the political front. The FTA will certainly deepen ties in other areas apart from trade, and that is the real significance of this agreement. And it's less about trade and investment.
All right, so when you say that it gives a bigger political message, If you had to amplify that, help us understand how it brings us closer to Oman strategically and in terms of our relations with Gulf on a larger scale?
Yes. Oman has been viewed in the Gulf region as a country which really hasn't taken sides in the political turmoil, and it's viewed as an honest broker. So on some of the contentious issues, Oman has provided the venue, the platform for talks between contesting parties in the Gulf region. And once the FTA starts getting implemented, and given Oman's the evolving and increasing strategic significance in the Gulf region, that gives us some leverage.
All right. Thank you very much, Abhijit Das and Jayant Dasgupta for joining us on the program. We're taking a short break here on Newscentre. Lots more when we return.